If war comes, resistance is required. That isn't a line from a dystopian movie or a history book about 1939. That is the very real, very bold headline staring at millions of Swedish citizens right now in late 2025. Welcome back. Today, we need to talk about the silence ending in Europe. For decades, Europe was a continent of peace. It was a place where military bases turned into parks and defense budgets were slashed to fund hospitals. But if you've been paying attention to headlines this year, you know that era is officially dead. This morning, I want you to look at the map. From the icy fjords of Norway to the tank factories of Germany, a massive machine is waking up. It's a machine that hasn't been fully turned on since the Cold War. In Sweden, every single household has just received a newly updated pamphlet instructing them on how to stockpile food, water, and listen for air raid sirens. In Poland, the government is building what they call Tarcza Wyszad, the Eastern Shield, a billion-euro system of bunkers and barriers. And in Germany, the legendary industrial giants are no longer just making cars. They are churning out Leopard tanks at speed we haven't seen in this century. The question everyone is whispering in the corridors of Brussels and Berlin is no longer if Russia is a threat. The question is Europe already preparing for World War III? Let's dive into the evidence. Money talks, and right now European money is screaming defense. Back in March of this year, the European Commission unveiled the ReArm Europe plan. The numbers are staggering. We are talking about a mobilization of capital that could reach 800 billion euros. To put that in perspective, that's bigger than the entire GDP of countries like Switzerland or Saudi Arabia. But it's not just about writing checks. It's about what those checks are buying. For the first time in generations, we are seeing a shift to a war economy. In 2024, ammunition production was a bottleneck. Now, in late 2025, the EU's target to produce 2 million artillery shells annually is becoming a reality. Look at Rheinmetall in Germany. They've opened new production lines that run 24/7. Look at Hungary, where new factories are coming online to build the next generation of infantry fighting vehicles. The philosophy has changed. The old just-in-time economy, where you build things only when you need them, is gone. It has been replaced by just-in-case. Warehouses that were empty are being filled with gunpowder, steel, and microchips. Why? Because military analysts have looked at the numbers coming out of Russia. They see a Russian economy completely dedicated to war, spending over 6% of its GDP on the military. Europe realized it couldn't fight a fire with a garden hose. So they are building a fire hose the size of a continent. Hardware is useless without people to operate it. And this is where the story gets personal for millions of young Europeans. For 30 years, conscription, the military draft, was seen as a relic of the past. Most European armies were small, professional, and designed for peacekeeping missions far away. That has changed overnight. Germany, a country historically terrified of militarization for obvious reasons, has passed a new military service law. They are aiming for tens of thousands of new recruits. It's not a full mandatory draft yet, but the optional checkbox is disappearing. In France, President Macron has pushed hard for a voluntary military service that feels less and less voluntary as the government aims to swell the ranks of the reserves. And then there's Poland. Poland isn't just recruiting. They are building the largest land army in the European Union. Their goal is 300,000 troops. This is a psychological shift. If you are an 18-year-old in Warsaw, Berlin, or Stockholm today, the idea of wearing a uniform isn't a video game fantasy. It's a very real career path that your government is actively pushing you toward. Europe is realizing a hard truth. You can buy all the F-35 fighter jets in the world, but they can't hold a trench. Only people can do that. Let's look at the geopolitics. Who is leading this charge? It's no longer just about NATO and the United States. In fact, one of the biggest themes of 2025 has been strategic autonomy. Basically, Europe realizing it might have to fight alone. We are seeing the rise of the Weimar Triangle. This is the alliance between France, Germany, and Poland. These three nations are becoming the central nervous system of European defense. At the Hague summit earlier this year, We saw a commitment to spend not just the famous 2% of GDP on defense, but a new target of 3.5% for the hardest hit areas. This is a direct response to the uncertainty coming from Washington and the aggression coming from Moscow. The strategy is clear: deterrence by denial. The plan is to make the eastern border of NATO, Finland, the Baltics, Poland, so incredibly fortified that any Russian general looking at a map would say, "No way, it's suicide." We see this with the Baltic Defense Line, a coordinated effort by Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania to build hundreds of concrete bunkers along their borders. They are literally digging in. This isn't a drill. They are pouring concrete today for a war they hope never comes. So where does this leave us? Intelligence agencies from Germany and Denmark have released reports this year with a chilling timeline. They estimate that once the fighting in Ukraine settles or pauses, Russia could rebuild its full military capability to attack NATO soil within 3 to 5 years. That is the deadline Europe is racing against. Every tank rolling off the assembly line in Munich, every bunker dug in Estonia, and every new recruit training in France is part of a desperate sprint to beat that clock. Is Europe starting a war? No. The argument from European leaders is that they are rearming to prevent one. The ancient Roman proverb has never been more popular in 2025. Si vis pacem, para bellum. If you want peace, prepare for war. But there is a danger here. History tells us that when two massive power blocks spend billions building up their armies, piling up weapons, and training their populations for conflict, the atmosphere becomes explosive. A single spark, a border skirmish, a misunderstood drone flight, a cyber attack, could set off the powder keg we are currently building. Europe is putting on its armor. We can only hope it never has to use it. What do you think? Is this rearmament a necessary shield? Or are we sleepwalking into a disaster? Let me know in the comments below.